The flashing red and blue lights filled Marcus Chen's rearview mirror just as he merged onto Highway 101. His heart sank. He'd been careful about his speed, hadn't he? The digital display on his dashboard read 68 in a 65 zone, barely over the limit. He signaled and pulled onto the shoulder, watching as the patrol car positioned itself behind him. Marcus ran his fingers through his hair, mentally calculating how late this would make him for his anniversary dinner with his wife, Rebecca. 7 years today, he'd made reservations at Bella Vista, the same restaurant where he'd proposed. The velvet box in his glove compartment held a diamond pendant he'd been saving for months to buy. Through his side mirror, he watched the officer approach. She was young, maybe late 20s, with sharp features and blonde hair pulled back in a regulation bun. Her name tag read Officer Davidson when she reached his window. "Good evening, sir. License and registration, please." Marcus complied, his hand steady as he retrieved the documents. His dash cam, a gift from his tech-savvy brother after a minor fender bender last year, sat mounted on his windshield, its small red light blinking steadily. He'd forgotten it was even there most days. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Officer Davidson asked, her voice professional but with an edge of something else. "Amusement, interest? I honestly don't, officer. I checked my speed. I was only 3 over." She leaned down, resting her forearm on his door. "Broken taillight. Passenger side." "Oh." Marcus genuinely hadn't known. "I had no idea." "I'll get that fixed first thing tomorrow." "Mm-hmm." She examined his license with unusual attention, her lips curving slightly. "Marcus Chen, nice name. You live around here?" "Yes, ma'am." "About 15 minutes away. I'm actually heading home now. It's my anniversary." That's when her demeanor shifted. The professional mask slipped, replaced by something more personal. She smiled. Not the polite smile of a traffic cop, but something warmer, more intimate. "Anniversary, huh?" She tilted her head, studying him with open appraisal. "Lucky wife." Marcus felt heat creep up his neck. "Thank you, officer." "You know," she said, her voice dropping lower, "I really should write you a ticket for this. It's a safety violation." She paused, tapping his license against her palm. "But you seem like a nice guy. Tell you what, I'll let you off with a warning this time." Relief washed over him. "Thank you so much. I really appreciate, on one condition." She pulled out her citation book anyway, flipping it open. As she began writing, she continued talking. "If you were single, I'd give you my number right now. You have kind eyes, honest face." Marcus froze, unsure how to respond. Was she actually hitting on him during a traffic stop? Officer Davidson finished writing and tore off the citation. But instead of handing it to him immediately, she held it just out of reach. She smirked, there was no other word for it, a knowing, slightly mischievous expression that made Marcus deeply uncomfortable. "Here's your warning," she said, finally passing him the paper. But as he took it, their fingers touched and she didn't pull away immediately. "But Marcus, a word of advice from someone who sees a lot on these roads." "Yes?" he managed, pulling his hand back. Her expression grew serious, almost sympathetic. "Pay attention to what's happening in your own home. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones we should watch closest." She straightened up, tapping the roof of his car twice. "Get that taillight fixed. And maybe, check your wife's phone, specifically today's messages." Before Marcus could process what she'd said or ask what she meant, Officer Davidson was walking back to her patrol car. He sat there stunned, the citation trembling slightly in his hand. The cryptic warning echoed in his mind. What did she mean? How did she know Rebecca? And why would a random traffic cop suggest he check his wife's phone on their anniversary? The patrol car pulled around him and drove off, leaving Marcus alone with a broken taillight, a citation for a warning, and a growing sense of unease that settled in his stomach like a stone. He looked at the citation in his hand. At the bottom in small handwriting was a note. "Sorry it had to be this way. Check the Pine Street parking garage today, 6:30. J.D." Marcus checked his watch. It was 6:15. Marcus sat in his car for 3 full minutes after Officer Davidson drove away, staring at the note on the citation. The Pine Street parking garage. That was downtown near Rebecca's office at Henderson Financial Group. His wife worked as a senior accountant there, often staying late during quarter-end closing. But today was their anniversary. She'd promised to leave early, meeting him at home by 7 so they could drive to dinner together. His phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. "Running a bit behind, honey. Mr. Henderson needs me to finish something. I'll be home by 7:15, love you. The message that would have seemed perfectly normal 15 minutes ago now felt like confirmation of something sinister. Marcus's hands gripped the steering wheel. This was insane. A random cop's cryptic message shouldn't make him doubt his wife of 7 years. Rebecca was devoted, wasn't she? They'd built a life together, a home. They were trying for a baby, but Officer Davidson's words nagged at him. Someone who sees a lot on these roads. What had she seen? Marcus made a decision that felt both inevitable and terrible. He started his car and headed toward downtown, toward the Pine Street parking garage. The dashcam continued its silent recording, documenting his journey into uncertainty. Traffic was light, and he arrived at 6:27. The parking garage was a 7-story concrete structure that served several office buildings. Rebecca's company was in the tower connected to floors 3-5. Marcus drove slowly up the ramps, his eyes scanning for Rebecca's silver Lexus, the car he'd helped her pick out for her birthday last year. Level 4. There it was, parked in a corner spot away from the main traffic flow. And beside it, a black BMW sedan. Marcus pulled into a spot 3 rows back, his heart hammering. He killed the engine and waited. From his position, he had a clear view of both cars. The windows of the BMW were slightly tinted, but he could make out 2 figures inside. His breath caught. At exactly 6:32, the driver's door of the BMW opened. A man emerged, tall, well-dressed in a tailored suit, probably in his early 40s. Marcus recognized him immediately from Rebecca's company events. Daniel Henderson, the son of the firm's founder. He was being groomed to take over the business, and Rebecca had mentioned working closely with him on several major accounts. The passenger door of Rebecca's Lexus opened. His wife stepped out. Even from this distance, Marcus could see she'd changed clothes. This morning, she'd worn a conservative navy pantsuit. Now she was in a black dress he'd never seen before, something sleek and sophisticated that hugged her curves. Her dark hair was down, styled in loose waves instead of her usual professional bun. They stood close, too close. Daniel said something that made Rebecca laugh, her hand touching his arm in a gesture that was unmistakably intimate. Then Daniel opened the back door of his BMW. They both got in. Marcus felt his world tilting. He wanted to storm over there to rip open that car door and demand an explanation. But something held him back. Maybe Officer Davidson's strange involvement in all this. Maybe the need to understand the full scope of what was happening before he acted. The windows of the BMW were too tinted to see clearly inside, but the car began rocking slightly. Marcus's stomach turned. He pulled out his phone, his hands shaking, and started recording video through his windshield. The angle wasn't perfect, but it captured Rebecca's car, the BMW, and the timestamp. 23 minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. Finally, the BMW's doors opened again. Rebecca emerged first, smoothing down her dress and checking her reflection in the car window. Daniel followed, adjusting his tie. They spoke briefly, Rebecca checking her watch and saying something urgent. Daniel nodded, kissed her cheek. Marcus's vision actually blurred red for a moment, and got back in his car. Rebecca returned to her Lexus, sat in the driver's seat for a moment checking her phone, then started the engine and drove toward the exit ramp. Marcus waited until both cars were gone before he allowed himself to breathe. His chest felt tight like someone was squeezing his ribcage. 7 years. 7 years of marriage, and this is what it came to? Meeting her boss in a parking garage on their anniversary? But the bigger question loomed. How did Officer Davidson know? Why did she warn him? His phone buzzed. Another text from Rebecca. On my way home now. Can't wait to celebrate with my amazing husband. You're my whole world. The casual cruelty of it made him want to scream. Instead, Marcus pulled up Officer Davidson's name from the citation. Jessica Davidson. He ran a quick social media search and found her profile. According to her LinkedIn, she'd graduated from the police academy 3 years ago. Her Facebook was more private, but her profile picture showed her with a group of women at what looked like a wedding. One of those women looked familiar. Marcus zoomed in and his blood ran cold. It was Sarah Henderson, Daniel Henderson's younger sister who worked in HR at Rebecca's company. He'd met her twice at company events. Friendly woman, always asking about his work as a civil engineer. The pieces clicked together. Jessica Davidson wasn't a random cop. She was Sarah Henderson's sister. and Sarah had warned him, through Jessica, about what was happening. But why? Why would Daniel's own sister expose his affair? Marcus drove home on autopilot, his mind racing through memories, searching for signs he'd missed. The house was dark when he pulled into the driveway. Rebecca wouldn't be home for another 15 minutes, given traffic. He sat in his car, the engine ticking as it cooled, and forced himself to think clearly. When had this started? How long had he been blind? The past 6 months replayed in his mind like a film reel with newly visible details. Rebecca's late nights at the office had increased dramatically. She'd started dressing more carefully for work, buying new clothes and spending more time on her makeup. When he'd complimented her, she'd laughed it off, just trying to look professional for the promotion review. The promotion. Daniel Henderson had been personally mentoring her for a senior partnership position. It's just business dinners, she'd explained when Marcus noticed her coming home at 9 or 10 p.m. This is how networking works at this level. He'd believed her. Why wouldn't he? Rebecca had always been ambitious, and Henderson Financial was a competitive environment. He'd been proud of her dedication. God, he'd been such a fool. Marcus entered the house and went straight to his home office. He connected his dash cam to his computer and downloaded today's footage. The camera had captured everything from the traffic stop onward: Officer Davidson's flirtation, her warning, and his own drive to the parking garage. The footage of Rebecca and Daniel was distant but clear enough. He created a secure backup on an encrypted cloud drive. Whatever happened next, he needed evidence. The front door opened. "Honey, I'm home." Rebecca's voice was bright, cheerful, the same voice that had whispered, "I love you" every morning for 7 years. Marcus took a breath, composed his face, and walked out to greet his wife. She looked beautiful. She always did. She'd changed back into her navy pantsuit somewhere between the parking garage and home. Her hair was back in a professional bun. If he hadn't witnessed her transformation earlier, he'd never know she'd been someone different just 40 minutes ago. "Hey, babe." She kissed him, and he forced himself not to pull away. Her perfume was different, something expensive and musky that he didn't recognize. "Sorry I'm late." Henderson was on a rampage about the quarterly reports. "No problem," Marcus said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I got held up too." "Traffic stop?" Rebecca's eyes widened. "Oh no, did you get a ticket?" "Just a warning. Broken taillight." He watched her face carefully. The officer was interesting. Young woman, really friendly. Well, that's good at least. Rebecca set down her purse and kicked off her heels. "God, I'm exhausted. This week has been brutal. I told Henderson we need to hire another senior accountant, but he keeps saying budget constraints." She rolled her eyes. Meanwhile, he just bought a new BMW. The casual mention of Henderson's car, the same BMW Marcus had watched her climb into, sent a spike of rage through his chest. But he kept his expression neutral. "Speaking of cars, we should probably get that taillight fixed before dinner. The auto shop down the street stays open until 8. Rebecca checked her watch. "Our reservation is at 8:30, right? We have time." She moved closer, wrapping her arms around his waist. 7 years, Marcus." "Can you believe it?" "Sometimes it feels longer," he said, and immediately regretted the edge in his voice. But Rebecca just laughed. "I know what you mean. In a good way, though. Like we've built something real, something lasting." She looked up at him, her brown eyes soft. "You're my rock. You know that, right? No matter what happens with work stress or life chaos, I know I can count on you." The words should have warmed him. Instead, they felt like manipulation, like she was building an alibi for her own conscience. "Let me change quick and we'll head to the auto shop," Rebecca said, pulling away. She paused at the stairs. "Oh, and I have a surprise for you tonight. Something I've been planning for weeks." After she disappeared upstairs, Marcus pulled out his phone. He needed to understand the full picture before he confronted her. He found Sarah Henderson's number in his contacts. She'd given it to him at last year's company holiday party, saying, "In case you ever need to reach Rebecca and her phone dies." He sent a text. "This is Marcus Chen, Rebecca's husband. Your sister pulled me over today and gave me a warning about something. Can we talk?" The response came within seconds. "Finally, yes, but not over text." "Can you meet tomorrow alone?" "Tell me one thing now," Marcus typed. "How long?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, 8 months. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I tried to tell her to stop. I tried to tell my brother. Nobody listened. So I asked Jessica to intervene. 8 months. 8 months of lies, of late nights at the office, of looking him in the eye and saying she loved him while she was sleeping with her boss. 8 months that included their vacation to Hawaii, her birthday party where he'd surprised her with a weekend at a bed and breakfast, and the night she'd cried in his arms because her mother had been diagnosed with cancer. Why now? He texted back. Why today? Because today they decided. Daniel is leaving his wife. He's going to ask Rebecca to move in with him. She's going to tell you tonight. I couldn't let her blindside you without giving you some kind of preparation. You deserve better than my brother's mess. You deserve better than the lie she's been living. Marcus's hands shook so badly he nearly dropped the phone. Tonight. She was going to tell him tonight, on their anniversary. The surprise she'd mentioned wasn't a gift. It was a bomb designed to destroy everything they'd built. I'm sorry. Sarah's text continued. Jessica thought if you saw it yourself first, you'd be prepared. You'd have time to protect yourself legally, emotionally. I know this is brutal, but I couldn't stand by and watch you get ambushed. The auto shop was a brief, surreal interlude. Marcus and Rebecca stood in the fluorescent-lit waiting area while a mechanic replaced the taillight. A 15-minute job that felt like hours. Rebecca chatted about a funny incident at work, carefully avoiding any mention of Daniel Henderson by name, checked her phone repeatedly, and seemed nervous in a way Marcus now recognized as guilt. He paid for the repair and drove them to Bella Vista in almost complete silence. Rebecca filled the quiet with innocuous chatter, seeming not to notice his monosyllabic responses. The restaurant was elegant. White tablecloths, candlelight, a view of the city lights. The hostess greeted them warmly. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, congratulations on your anniversary. She led them to a corner table, the same table where Marcus had proposed 7 years ago. The diamond pendant in his pocket felt like a lead weight. Rebecca ordered wine, a Pinot Noir they'd shared on their wedding night. Marcus declined alcohol. He needed to be sharp for whatever was coming. You okay? Rebecca asked after their server left. You've been quiet. Long day, Marcus said. Tell me about yours. How was work, really? Something flickered in her expression. Uncertainty? Fear. The usual chaos. Henderson had us in meetings all afternoon, reviewing the quarterly projections. She sipped her water. Actually, that's partially a lie. Here it comes, Marcus thought. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Rebecca reached across the table and took his hand. Marcus, I need to tell you something. Something I've been holding back for a while now. He waited, his face impassive. I've been thinking a lot about our future lately. About what we want, where we're going. She took a breath, and I realized I haven't been completely honest with you about what's been happening at work. What do you mean? The long hours, the stress, it's been worse than I've let on. Henderson has been putting enormous pressure on me for this senior partnership. He wants me to basically run half the company, but he's also... She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. He's been inappropriate sometimes. Comments about my appearance, standing too close, finding excuses to meet privately. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Was she really going to play the victim here? I've been trying to handle it professionally, Rebecca continued. But it's been weighing on me. I didn't want to worry you, but I think I need to start looking for a new job. Henderson Financial isn't the right fit anymore. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. She was already constructing her narrative. The harassed employee forced to leave, not the willing mistress planning to move in with her boss. Was this her way of backing out? Had she changed her mind about telling him? When did this start? Marcus asked quietly. The inappropriate behavior? Maybe 6 months ago. It got worse around... No. His voice was harder now. When did you start sleeping with him? The wine glass stopped halfway to Rebecca's lips. Her face went pale, then flushed. What? Daniel Henderson? When did you start having an affair with him? Marcus, I don't know what your... Pine Street parking garage. Today. 6:32 p.m. You changed into a black dress I've never seen. Got into the back of his BMW and stayed there for 23 minutes. Then you changed back into your work clothes and texted me that you were on your way home. Rebecca set down the glass, her hand visibly shaking. You followed me? I was warned, Marcus said, by someone who cared enough to give me a heads up before you destroyed our marriage on our anniversary. Who? Understanding dawned on her face. Sarah, that bitch told you. Sarah's sister, actually. She pulled me over for a broken taillight and suggested I check the parking garage. So I did. He pulled out his phone and opened the video. I recorded everything, Rebecca, everything. She stared at the screen, watching herself embrace Daniel, watching them get into his car. When the video ended, she looked up at Marcus with tears streaming down her face. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. "Really? Because it looks like my wife of 7 years has been cheating on me with her boss. For 8 months, according to Sarah. 8 months of lying to my face. And Marcus, please, were you going to tell me tonight? Was that your surprise? That you're leaving me for Daniel Henderson?" Rebecca's sob was answer enough. Marcus stood from the table, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Several nearby diners glanced over, curious about the disturbance. He didn't care. "Sit down," Rebecca hissed, her tears mixing with anger now. "You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" Marcus laughed, the sound bitter. "You've been making a fool of me for 8 months and I'm the one making a scene?" "It's not that simple." Rebecca's voice cracked. "You don't understand what happened, how it started. I understand perfectly. You wanted more than what we had. More excitement, more status, more money. Daniel Henderson could give you all of that." Marcus threw cash on the table, enough to cover their wine and then some. "Keep the life we built. Keep this anniversary table. I'm done." He turned to leave, but Rebecca grabbed his arm. "Wait, please, just let me explain. There's more to this than you know. There's nothing you can say that would—" "Daniel's wife knows. She's known for months. She hired a private investigator." Rebecca's words tumbled out desperately. "That's why Sarah told you. Not out of loyalty to you, but because Daniel's wife is filing for divorce and she's naming me in the lawsuit. Sarah wanted you to find out before it became public record, before the lawyers contacted you." Marcus felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. "You knew she knew?" "Daniel told me last month. He said his marriage was over anyway, that they'd been unhappy for years. He promised we'd wait until after the divorce was finalized, that we'd do everything properly." More tears. But then his wife accelerated everything. She's going after his assets, his position in the company. His father is threatening to write him out of the business because of the scandal. And you thought telling me on our anniversary would somehow make this better?" Rebecca shook her head miserably. I thought if I framed it as sexual harassment, if I made you think I was the victim, maybe we could survive this. Maybe you'd stand by me through the legal mess and never know the truth." The manipulation was stunning. Marcus felt a cold clarity settle over him. "So the plan tonight was to lie even bigger. To make me think you were harassed so I'd support you, comfort you. Maybe even testify on your behalf when Henderson's wife comes after you." I panicked. Rebecca stood now too, her voice rising. "Everything's falling apart. Daniel says he can't leave his wife anymore because the financial consequences would destroy him. His father told him to end it with me or lose his inheritance. And his wife, God, Marcus, she's vicious. She has pictures, recordings, hotel receipts. She's going to ruin me professionally. No firm will hire me after this." "That's what you're worried about? Your career?" Marcus stared at his wife, this woman he thought he knew, and saw a stranger. "What about our marriage? What about the 7 years we built together?" "I love you," Rebecca said. And for the first time he heard the truth beneath the words. She loved what he represented. Stability. Safety. A backup plan if her gamble with Henderson didn't pay off. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we can work through this. People recover from affairs all the time, not from this." Marcus pulled his arm free from her grasp. "Not from 8 months of premeditated lies. Not from planning to manipulate me on our anniversary into being your alibi." He walked away then, leaving Rebecca standing in the middle of Bella Vista, tears streaming down her face. The other diners had given up any pretense of not watching. Marcus didn't look back. Outside, the November air was cold and crisp. Marcus got in his car and just sat there, his hands on the steering wheel, breathing. His phone buzzed, a text from Officer Jessica Davidson. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Sarah wanted me to tell you that if you need anything, lawyer recommendations, testimony about timeline, whatever, we're willing to help. What Daniel and Rebecca did was wrong. You didn't deserve this," Marcus typed back. "Thank you for warning me. I don't know if I'll ever understand why you got involved, but you gave me the chance to prepare. That matters." My sister Sarah loves her brother, but she loves justice more. She watched Rebecca string you along while planning to use you as a safety net. We couldn't let that happen. Some things are more important than family loyalty. Marcus started his car, but he didn't go home, not to the house he shared with Rebecca. Instead, he drove to his brother's apartment downtown. David answered the door in sweatpants and a confused expression. Marcus, what's wrong? Aren't you supposed to be at anniversary dinner? It's over, Marcus said simply. Rebecca's been having an affair. I found out today. I need a place to crash while I figure out the next steps. David pulled him into a hug. Jesus, come in. Tell me everything. Over the next 3 hours, Marcus laid it all out. The traffic stop, Officer Davidson's warning, what he'd witnessed at the parking garage, and the disastrous confrontation at dinner. David listened, his face growing darker with anger. You have video evidence? Everything. The dashcam recorded the whole day. Good, you're going to need that. David grabbed his laptop. First thing tomorrow, we're calling my lawyer friend. You need to file for divorce before Rebecca tries to spin this her way. And if Henderson's wife is building a case, your evidence might help her too. Marcus nodded numbly. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him hollow and exhausted. I bought her a necklace, he said quietly. A diamond pendant. It's still in my car. I was going to give it to her tonight. Return it tomorrow. Use the money for the lawyer. 7 years, David, we were trying for a baby. We had names picked out. I know, man. I know. David gripped his shoulder. But you're going to get through this. And you know what? That cop did you the biggest favor of your life. Imagine if you'd found out after she was pregnant. Imagine if you'd wasted another 7 years before the truth came out. Marcus thought about Officer Davidson, Jessica, and her smirk when she'd handed him the citation. If you were single, I'd give you my number, she'd said. At the time, he'd thought it was inappropriate flirtation. Now he understood it differently. She'd been testing him, seeing if he was the kind of man who'd flirt back with a cop while on his way to anniversary dinner. When he'd politely declined and mentioned his wife, she'd known he was worth saving. The ticket hadn't been punishment. It had been a warning, a chance to see the truth before it destroyed him completely. His phone buzzed again. Rebecca, please come home. We need to talk. I'll tell you everything, the whole truth. We can work through this. I love you, please. Marcus deleted the message without responding. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in his lawyer's office signing divorce papers. Rebecca had tried everything: tears, threats, bargaining, promises to go to counseling. She'd even shown up at his brother's apartment at 2 a.m., pounding on the door and begging for another chance. But Marcus had watched the dashcam footage too many times to be swayed. He'd seen his wife transform from the woman he loved into someone else, someone who could lie that smoothly. He'd heard her plan to manipulate him at their anniversary dinner. Some things couldn't be forgiven. Henderson's wife did file for divorce, and she did name Rebecca in the lawsuit. The scandal rocked Henderson Financial. Daniel was demoted by his father and eventually left the company. Rebecca lost her job, not officially for the affair, but her position was restructured out of existence. And Officer Jessica Davidson? 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Marcus ran into her at a coffee shop downtown. She was in civilian clothes, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, looking younger than he remembered. Marcus Chen, she said with that same knowing smirk. How are you holding up? Better than I thought I'd be, he admitted. Thank you, by the way. For that day. Just doing my job. Protecting and serving, she paused. And maybe interfering a little in personal matters when my sister asks. How is Sarah? She quit Henderson Financial. Started her own HR consulting firm. Turns out exposing workplace affairs and toxic family businesses is kind of her specialty now. Jessica grinned. She sends her regards. They talked for a few minutes. Easy conversation. The kind between people who'd shared something significant even if they barely knew each other. As Marcus prepared to leave, Jessica called after him. Hey, Marcus. Remember what I said that day? About if you were single? He turned back, surprised. Well, you are single now. She pulled out a business card and wrote a number on the back. That's my personal cell. If you ever want to grab coffee sometime, actual coffee, not this random running into each other thing, give me a call. Marcus took the card, smiling for the first time in months. Maybe I will. Take your time, Jessica said. But when you're ready, I think you'll find I'm full of surprises. Good ones, though, promise. As Marcus walked to his car, a new car because he'd sold the one with the dash cam and too many memories, he thought about warnings and second chances. About how sometimes the worst moments of your life come disguised as ordinary days. About how a broken taillight and a flirtatious cop had saved him from wasting more years on a lie. The ticket officer Davidson had written him that day sat framed in his new apartment. He'd kept it as a reminder. Sometimes warnings come from unexpected places, and sometimes the people who care enough to tell you hard truths are the ones worth keeping in your life. He looked at the business card in his hand, at Jessica's number written in neat blue ink. Maybe not today. Maybe not for a while. But someday. Because if he'd learned anything from the wreckage of his marriage, it was this: second chances were worth taking, especially when they came from someone brave enough to speak the truth. Marcus got in his car and drove toward his future, uncertain, but finally, honestly his own.